In a world where everyone and their brother has a podcast, one stands alone. It's been called one of the podcasts of all time. Welcome to Internet Killed the Video Store.
All right, so today on Internet Killed the Video Store, we have Giuliana Mormile of Kicksie, singer, songwriter, guitarist. I guess that's probably where I want to start. What all do you do for this project? Because reading the liner notes, it says basically everything for Mad Dash. So
pretty much.
Are you performing everything live? Do you play drums and bass, everything?
Not live. Live, I have like a backing band with me, but studio versions normally, for the most part, I'm doing all of it.
Awesome. Okay. So when did this project officially start for you?
Around 2017, I think, is when I started putting things out under Kicksie. I think before that, I had like a few other names that I was going by, but nothing really stuck until I came across this name, and I was like, fine, I guess I'll keep it.
Well, you have like a really interesting blend of inspirations and sounds. Like, was there anything listening to growing up where you're like, I want to make music, where it finally clicked?
I mean, there was I grew up on like Blink and a lot of the Used.
Okay.
Paramore is another big one, of course. I had an Owl City phase,
Okay,
I think.
yeah.
And it was I kind of grew up on all that stuff, you know?
Gotcha. So like mid 2000s emo stuff.
Yes.
So doing a lot of your writing process, kind of using, I'm assuming like a Pro Tools or program instruments. How do you gauge when you're done with a song or when to stop? Is it tempting to go back and work on stuff time and time again?
It definitely is. For the most part, I will be like editing things even the day before I will upload them to distributors or whatever. Like for the last record, Slouch, I was rewriting instruments the day before I had to master it. I was like up for it. It's very hard to know when when I'm like stopping. Normally I just get tired enough that I'm like, this is what I have, so this is what will be out, and I just can't do it anymore. So
what is your writing process like, since you are kind of arranging everything at once? Do you start with like a skeleton of lyrics or guitar?
I normally always start with guitar, so I'll have like a chord progression or a riff that I really like. And also I'll like start with the riff, and I use Logic. So I'll drop it into Logic and I'll almost extend it into like a big loop of however long I want the song to be. And then from there, I kind of like cut out pieces and replace it with other parts. And then I go back. Normally drums is after that, and then bass, and then vocal last. But it's very much, I like see it all as like blocks that I work on.
Okay.
And I just, keep going back over and over until it sounds cohesive.
Do you know like the extremes, like the shortest or the longest you spent on a single song?
It really depends. Sometimes I will come up with an idea and I can just like run with it. There's a couple songs that were very fast writing it. Banana Pop took me maybe 2 days to write. Mad Dash, like just the song itself, is another one that was very fast. Some of them take months. Like the Butterflies took, I don't even want to know how long. It was a very long time. But it really depends on the idea, I think, and how easy it is for me to write around it.
How do you bounce ideas off of other people when you are kind of the primary source of writing?
Normally I will send it to my live band a lot of the time, and I'll be like, or I'll take songs that are unfinished and I'll bring it to the band and I'll be like, we are going to perform this live. And then I hear what parts don't really work from there, and I'm like, shoot, maybe I should actually change this to make it work better. And then I'll kind of take it home with me and I'll think about it more. And yeah, that was something that happened a lot doing the last record. We played a lot of the songs before I went into actually recording it. And it changed a lot because I just had so much time to to listen to these songs and hear other people and like what they had to say about dynamics and stuff. But yeah, so it's mostly them. I do have a couple other friends that I throw my demos at, but it's normally just to ask specific questions like, does this melody suck or something? And then they'll answer. So
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always good to have a sounding board.
oh yeah.
So 2018's Doghouse had a very like electronic based sound. And like you said, you've kind of pivoted to a more live band. Was that an intentional choice of wanting to perform more in-person live music?
It was definitely intentional. I think Doghouse, it's almost the opposite. It was not intentional. It was supposed to sound almost like a live band. I
Mm-hmm.
think the issue that I had with that record, it was like my first Kicksie record, right?
Yeah.
So I was comparing it a lot to the music that I was hearing, like references and the songs that I grew up on and things like that. And at the time I had a tiny little PV amp and I had a Blue Yeti, and that's all I had to record with. So like recording with that was so bad because obviously the sound wasn't really good.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the issues that I had was with like with room noise. So when the instrument would play, there'd be like that shh in the background. And for
Gotcha.
some reason it bothered me so much that I made all the instruments, including guitar, just MIDI. So I made
Mm-hmm.
everything MIDI, and I was like, at least I won't get the room noise with this. And I think maybe looking back, I should have just sucked it up because it does give like it's a nice electronic flavor that I probably will never touch upon again. But definitely was not the intention all
Okay.
along. So
So has it kind of been trial and error figuring out how to record stuff yourself as well?
yes, it's been a lot of trial and error, and I think I'm finally getting comfortable with it after so long. I'm not using MIDI guitars anymore, so that's really great.
Well, yeah, we love the record Slouch. We've been playing it ad nauseum here,
Thank
and
you.
it takes so many cool detours into other styles of music. I guess how do you tether yourself to your own distinct voice? Because every song sounds like a Kicksie song, but you do
Mhm.
experiment a lot. So how do you balance letting yourself experiment while maintaining your own distinct style?
Very, very interesting question. That's tough. I think it might just come with just doing it over and over throughout the years. I've had such a change in inspirations where I started off as like a very just 2006 emo kid, like Sum 41, like all the bands, you know.
Yeah,
And as
yeah.
I grew older, I had a change in what I mostly listen to. So nowadays it's mostly, for some reason, I'm into soul, and a lot of Frank Ocean is like my main
Yeah.
artist. SZA, Tyler, all those guys, right? So
Yeah.
listening to all that, my sound almost not pivoted into that direction, but it definitely changed. And I do want to experiment more in that way, but I will always kind of have that base of what I grew up on, I think. So I feel like no matter what I do, I will always do it in the way that I don't want to say trained myself, but just the way what I've always known.
Yeah.
So I think something that I do enjoy also is taking these styles of music that are so far outside of pop punk and trying to blend them together.
Hmm.
So it is something that I consciously do where I take R&B chords and I'm like, how exactly am I going to make this sound like emo, you know?
Yeah.
Uh so yeah.
No, there's a very distinct sound on I think it's Closure, the first track, that definitely sounds like it's got a soul feel to it. And
Mhm.
I love that tempo change and sinking in. That's just
Thank
so
you.
unique, I guess, to like you said, the emo punk style of music to throw that in there. So it's a lot of really cool stuff, and you take a lot of really bold risks with your music, and it pays off, I think. Do
Thank
you
you.
remember what your first live performance was like?
It was terrible. I performed my first Kicksie live performance. I did band camps a couple times when I was younger. I don't think I'll count those, but my very first Kicksie performance was at a festival in Toronto. It was free. I don't know what it was called, but it was just a small little thing. I think there must have been like 60 or so people there. There was a couple food trucks. I don't remember what we were celebrating, but the whole thing was that I was going to go on stage. I was going to play 5 songs, and that was it. And all I had was me and my guitar. And I had practiced so hard. I remember I was practicing for hours and hours, even the whole day up to it. I was practicing, and I got up on stage. It was just like a regular outdoor festival stage, like what you would expect. It was very high up off the ground. I think I got on, and for some reason I blacked out and I just forgot all of the words to my first song. And it was horrendous. It was so bad that they cut my set short, my 5-song set. And they, after my 3rd song, they like wrapped it up and they were like, "Thanks so much." And I was like, "Oh no." And then afterwards I got off stage and it was like horrible. And they had like sent me an email because we were supposed to do 2 dates, and they were like, "Don't even worry about going back to the." I was
That's
like,
ruthless.
"Oh no." Oh yeah, I blew it big time, but I learned a lot of lessons that day. So
Gotcha.
And it's a funny story. So I mean, but hey, it was something I never want to experience again in my life.
Well, yeah, it's got to be vulnerable to be the source of all this music, playing it up there by yourself.
Yeah.
So does having the backing band help with the vulnerability and nerves a little bit?
Yes, it does. Even the last couple of years, I've been performing so much. And even to this day, if I'm performing solo, I'm like much more uncomfortable than I am with a band. I feel like I can really just jump around, and I have like the security of knowing that even if I mess up, no one can hear me because all you can hear are drums. And it's really great. And that's something that I find solace in. I can mess up all I want and no one will ever know.
So what was the process like of recruiting your touring band?
It was okay. I did have the most trouble finding a drummer. I went through a couple of them. For some reason, there's so many, but they're all in 8 different bands. So you can't really you can't really ask them all because they're like, "Sorry, I'm so busy."
It has to be a shared custody thing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a shared custody thing. But I met my lead guitarist Sonny when I was in college. We went to the same program together, so I met him there. My bassist, I've got a couple bassists. When I go to the States, I use my bassist Alex Kessler. We met on r/emo. So yeah, and then the first time I actually met him in person was when we went on tour, and I just picked him up in Boston. And I was like, "I guess you're here now." We met on r/emo. Great friends. And my other bassist who's home here is Ethan, and he just sent me a message one day and was like, "Hey, if you ever need a bassist, I play the bass." And I'm like, "I need a bassist." So that happened. And then my drummer Morgan was just a recommendation from Sonny. So that's how the band got together.
Yeah, everybody plays guitar. It's always hard to find a drummer.
Everybody.
It's so the most expensive, the bulkiest instrument.
It's so true. And there's only one drummer I think I've ever had, and he was a sub drummer, and he was the only drummer that I knew with a car.
Oh yeah.
And it's the drummers have to provide the drums, but they never have cars. And it's like, man, oh no. But it's okay.
So do you do a lot of like satellite practices to rehearse songs, or are you just kind of sending demos and everybody practices on their own time?
Honestly, in the beginning, we did quite a few practices. I think we did every week we would get together. I would send them beforehand, but we would normally just practice in person. But nowadays we don't really I think we did one practice going into the tour, and then we just kind of got better as we went, just because we were playing every night anyway. But they definitely have subsided. I think that's just because we've been playing the same songs for so much that it's like riding a bike at this point, and or beating a dead horse, it's how many times can you practice the same song? But when I get more newer songs, I think we'll start doing more regular practices again.
Cool. So when I was a kid and we took our first trip up into Canada, it blew my mind that you could buy bags of milk at the grocery store. Did you have any moments like that coming to the States for the first time where you're like, you guys do it like this? What is that?
So many moments. I here when we're in Canada, when we're in Canada,
Yeah.
when you go to the gas station, you can pump the gas first and then go in to pay after.
Oh
But
yeah.
here you have to go in, pay, and then leave and pump. And I messed up so many times where I would go in, pay like $60 or something, and then pump 40 and then not go back in and tell them and then leave. And then I got charged the full amount. I was like, oh my God. So that was culture shock for me. I think just gas stations in general. We went to them very often, as I'm sure you could assume. They are much nicer. The bathrooms are nicer than in Canada. And which is shocking. But what else? You guys have these bags of pretzels called dots, and they are so good.
Yeah.
So that was really great. There's a lot more. The roads are so different than in Canada. Like they're so much quieter and smoother, and for the most part, everyone just stayed in the right lane and only was in the left lane to pass. Whereas in Canada, everyone is just in both lanes, and then so much traffic builds up and you can never get anywhere. Oh man, I could go on and on. I really had a good time when we were in the States. It was fantastic. Everything was exactly the way that I have always wanted it to be, and in Canada, it's just not the same whatsoever. So yeah, it was great. It's a huge culture shock, but in a great way.
Yeah. So do you have any cool tour experiences, I guess, for the first time coming to the States over the summer?
Yeah, I think it was not wild by any means, but it was really interesting seeing the difference in the music scenes all over the States and the one music scene we have in Toronto. And it's so interesting to me that every 3 hours or 4 hours you can just go into a different state and there's just a whole new group of people that are just there, and they're just like, it's very interesting. And I think people in the States, or just the music scenes, are so much more receptive, I guess, because all we really have in Toronto is it's really oversaturated. So being so spread out across the States, it's so much easier to find a place there, I think. But yeah, the people were really nice to us, and we got along with everyone, and the bands were good, and yeah, overall our experience was great. It was really good, and there was so many deer. I don't know why.
A lot
Tons of deer. So many deer.
So yeah, since everything's so spaced out up north, like what is the DIY scene like where you're at? Are there a lot of low venues, or is it kind of big or nothing?
It really, for the most part, is Toronto, and there will be random venues 3 hours apart in very small areas where like there really isn't a music scene, but there may be a band that's from there, like a couple bands. But there's not much. In Toronto, there is so much. We must have, I don't even want to give you a number on the amount of venues we have. We have so many venues, and every night is just packed with bands, and it's a little too much, but but it's so much. But yeah, other than that, maybe Calgary, Montreal, Ottawa has a fantastic music scene, I will say. Vancouver, that's all I can give you, really. But nothing nearby whatsoever.
With everything so centralized in Toronto, is it kind of hard to get your foot in the door as a new band?
Oh yeah, it's very tough. And another thing that I find that's tough is because Toronto, for the most part, is the only place to play. and you can't really play there more than once a month because of your pull and all that whatever.
Right.
And so it makes it tough because it's like you can barely play because you don't want to keep playing in the same spot, but there's really nowhere else to go. And even when you do go to Toronto, it's very hit or miss because there's always so much going on that it's very hard to get people there. So yeah, it's been quite tough. I will, like, being completely honest, like, we've played in Toronto for a couple years, and I'll have a decent pull, but only if I play one show maybe once every 3 months. You know, anything more than that, and I'm not getting anywhere. But obviously, I want to play more than that, right? So
yeah. Do you get more fulfillment out of kind of playing live and seeing people react to your music, or do you like the studio process of putting down a track and completing an album?
that's tough. I definitely like both. I don't know which I like more, but I enjoy studio because it's my space to just really do what I feel like I excel at. And I like live performing as well because it's just fun to challenge myself and try and step outside of my box a little. Because yeah, I don't really enjoy that. I don't enjoy, but I get very socially awkward sometimes. So it's interesting to see how I will overcome that every time we play live and try and make a performance good. So yeah, I really do enjoy both for different reasons.
Gotcha. So you had mostly good experiences touring this summer. There weren't any times where you're staying somewhere like, oh God, where are we spending the night tonight? Or
we were so spoiled, and it never rained once. Not a
wow.
single time. It rained. Okay, I lied. It rained twice. Okay, 3 times. That's how little it rained. The rest of the days it was just hot and sunny, and everyone was so nice, and every place we stayed at, they were just so welcoming, and honestly, there's like not a single bad story. Like I am shocked. There's not a bad story. Nothing weird happened. So
how did you spend your downtime on the road? You playing video games, going to thrift shops?
a little bit of all that.
Yeah.
We always had plans for our days off, like what city are we in, what can we do on this day off, and then the day off would come and we just spend the whole day inside just sleeping. But we played a lot of video games, and we went to thrift shops. We like a lot of coffee shops as well. But yeah, it was nice to have the downtime that we had. Or we would just hang out. For some reason, all of our hosts wanted to hang out with us, so we would just hang out with them. We'd go out and eat with them, and that was good. That was good passing the time with those people. So
what was the game of choice for the van?
oh, the game of choice. There was this one game that the guys would play in the back. I was mostly driving, so I was not a part of that, but they were playing so much of this one game, and it was I don't remember. It had something to do with like little puzzles, and they had to like yell at each other and to like defuse the bomb in time or something. I don't know. I don't remember what it was called, but
that sounds stressful.
it was really stressful, and they would also play chess together on their phones, and so they'd be screaming about chess as well. Yeah, it was so horrible to have to sit and listen to that. But I'm glad that they were at least enjoying themselves. So
was everybody pretty good about sharing the aux cord and giving up time, or was there somebody just always wanting to put their music on?
No one really. I think for the most part, because the drives got so long, at a certain point, it'd be like, okay, I'm tired of listening to my own stuff. Like someone else claim it. So we would just like put it out in the open and be like, whoever wants it can have it. And so it was pretty equal though.
Okay, cool. Anything cool you found out on the road, or bands you played with that you got your eyes open to for the first time?
We played with on our first night when we played this little house show in Troy, and we played with this artist called Meet the Bug, I believe, and they were so good. It was really cool, like our very first show ever in the States, and we just played with just the coolest artists ever. It was really good. I liked them. We played with the Caves when we were in Kansas City, and they were really, really cool. We did our string of Texas shows with She's a Robot, and they have to be one of my favorite bands. They're incredible. And yeah, those are mostly my standouts from the
Yeah.
tour. But we played with a lot of really. Oh, there's another band we were in Philly called Body Kit, I
Oh yeah.
think. They were fucking insane. Their set was like 20 minutes long, and I was like, keep going, like don't don't end it like this. And they did. It was so sad, but they were great. And yeah, I think those are my favorite bands that we played with for sure.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I want to thank you for joining us. It was awesome getting to talk to you. Slouch is the new album out on Bandcamp. We really enjoy it. And yeah, you're going to be out on tour again with Oso Oso this winter, right?
Yes, very exciting stuff. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me, though. Very nice.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any plans debuting any new tracks on this tour?
We'll be playing a couple new ones live, but it
Mhm.
depends. It depends. We'll see.
Okay.
Got
Awesome.
plans.
Good, good. All right. Well, yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So this week on Internet Kill the Video Store, we are glad to announce Kevin Patrick Sullivan, better known as Field Medic, is here to talk with us. You've been doing this, started at 19, is that right? Or did you have any bands before Field Medic?
So I started, my project was originally called Westwood and Willow. That was me
Okay.
when I was like 17. And then that project turned into a band called Rin Tin Tiger. And that's when I was 19. And then that band, we toured like West Coast tours and did local shows in San Francisco for about 5 years until 2016 when I moved to LA, and I had already started Field Medic, like sort of in the middle of the band.
Hmm.
But I've been off and on. I've been doing this in some form since I was like 18.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So how has your relationship to your music changed over the years? You gotta have to recalibrate and reprioritize as an adult and how you measure your successes and failures.
That's a really good question. It was actually, it kind of oscillates. Like, I think the biggest difference for me is when you're young, or I'll speak for myself, when I was young, I was like, all I have to do is like make a good song. It was a little very like, it's sort of that optimistic naivete, like just thinking like, I feel like I can do this. It's going to be all like unicorns and rainbows if I just make a great song. And obviously, I think great songs are the foundation of anything good too. But as I've gotten older, I mean, I'm 32 now, so it's like I know a little bit more about like the industry and all that stuff, and it's interesting trying to get back to this sort of childlike joy of creating art and music when you're also trying to wrap your head around the sort of weirdness and the things that do get you ahead or that don't get you ahead. I would very blanket statement call it like the industry conspiracies, but I'm just saying that because I really like hyperbole. I don't think it's actually a conspiracy, but it's just so for a while I think that like when I made the record Grow Your Hair Long ... I was like super tired would be a good way to put it. Like I just was like, I don't know if I can go on anymore, once again speaking hyperbolically. But when I made the new album Light Is Gone Too, I actually sort of found that spark again because I was making the songs in such a weird way, in a way that I never had before. So there was a lot of discovery in the process. So I felt very connected to the music in this sort of listening to it and being surprised at what it sounded like, as opposed to just making another like normal Field Medic song.
Mm-hmm.
And I think throughout that process, I'm happy to say that now I'm like way more back, like in touch with what I would consider to be a good creative headspace, where I feel there's still definitely some existentialism about like the world and everything. But as far as creatively, like there's been a lot of ups and downs, but I try to just stay busy all the time. And I just kind of just make music even when I don't feel like it. And because I think that the way that I exist in the world is like through song. So as long as there is songs about whatever time period is happening, whether or not they're good or bad, it sort of helps me ground myself. But so yeah, it's changed and it's grown, but it's the one thing that I feel confident and happy doing. So that's why I'm still doing it.
I wanted to go back just a little bit. You mentioned that the writing process had kind of changed on this new record. I think that's pretty evident in the sound of the album. But do you want to talk about, did you approach it differently and intentionally? Was it the people you were working with on the record? How do you think that happened?
So in 2020, during the lockdown, I started this like cloud rap side project called Paper Rose Haiku, which was sort of my introduction to digital producing. Although I didn't make the beats for the project, I had to record it onto a computer because we had to obviously put hella auto-tune on the vocals. And I really hadn't recorded a lot of stuff to a computer prior to that. And I think that throughout, 2021 and 2022, I still wasn't ready when I made Grow Your Hair Long. In fact, I was so sort of doomed at that time, which is why I worked with my friend Gabe Goodman, who produced that record, where I didn't feel like I had it in me to even like do it. And that was a really strange thing for me to do because I'm usually kind of, I'm not a control freak, but I really like to just like do everything myself. So to sort of hand over the reins was not sort of normal for me. But by the time that I got to the new album, Light Is Gone Too, I was like, I want to make this record, but I want to make it digital. And I want to make it slap. Like I was listening to a lot of Yeet at the time and like Playboy Cardi. And I was like, fuck, like I want music that like has like brutal 808s and like crazy sounds. And so, yeah, it was just kind of the approach changed in the sense that I was just sort of letting anything go. And also just sort of consciously taking the songs that were all written the same way, like on a guitar, and then just taking the guitar out or replacing the guitar with synth or like experimenting with like weird vocal styles, like the harmonies on The Look on Her Face or the vocal on Mass Market Paperback is this sort of like whiny emo style vocal I've like never done before. And it was just, I just wanted to recapture that feeling of fun. And there was even times when I was making it where I was like, dude, I think this is too crazy. Like, I think that I'm like too far into my own zone right now, but it felt really good to just sort of not let that feeling stop me from just seeing it through to the final product.
Right. Have you always looked at other genres for inspiration? I mean, I feel like this album is pretty different, but going through your whole catalog, I mean, you've always done the country folk thing, but with like lo-fi beats and, electronic sounds from time to time. So yeah, I mean, is it just this new album or, I mean, has hip hop always been influential for Field Medic or other genres that you look to?
Absolutely. I think that my old band was a little bit like, I guess you could call it Americana. And I was very much at the time period like addicted to Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Townes Van Zandt and all the classics. And when I was starting to make the first Field Medic stuff, I was re-entering this phase where I was in love with new wave music. And I just found the record Hats by the Blue Nile. And also like I loved Tupac a lot at the time. I had a tattoo that says Better Days. It was like the second tattoo I ever got. So I've always loved hip hop. And so like with the song, for example, like Henna Tattoo, like I feel like that song has a kind of like beat. Yeah, I mean, obviously it has a beat, but it has a sort of hip hop feel. And the thing is that at the time when I was recording lo-fi, all the old stuff, I literally didn't have a computer and I certainly didn't know how to use one. So using my my analog drum machines to try and sort of make a hip hop beat was like the best I could do. And so the answer is yes. I mainly listen to like rap music and like metalcore music. I like music that's really like ridiculous, I think is a good way to put it. Like I find that I think I'm like an escapist listener. Like I like to listen to music that really like pushes the boundary of an emotion. And then I guess I try to distill that into something slightly folkier.
Sure.
When I'm making my own music.
Yeah.
So do you ever have to kind of force yourself to take a break to keep from burning out, or as long as the ideas are coming, you're going to keep putting them on the paper?
That's a really good question. I do have to force myself to take breaks, because to me, I'll say like, I'm going to take a break, but that means chilling for like 3 hours. And then somehow I'm just back in here making another song. So one thing that's helpful for me is reading books, which I love to do, obviously. And like, that is also, but it's almost like not taking a break, because I feel like I'm still feeding my brain like ideas that give me ideas. But sometimes I play video games sometimes. That's like the ultimate break.
Awesome.
And that's not something I used to do. I just bought a used PS4 on eBay. I got it for $90. And I played Resident Evil 4, the original, like 4 times, and I just started the remake.
Nice.
And I'm fully addicted. So that's how I chill.
It feels like there's a little bit of that video game music influence seeping into The Light Is Gone too.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself jiving with any video game soundtracks?
That's actually a really cool observation. I hadn't, like, to be honest with you, the only video game I've ever beat is Resident Evil 4, like 4 times.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the OST has been subconsciously in there or not, but I do love that kind of sound.
Cool.
So yeah, a lot of the lyrics on Light Is Gone 2 talk about like disassociating from yourself and the whole field medic character.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you kind of fight that incessant nature of like the 24-hour global marketplace that is the internet, that's always asking you to, be bettering yourself? Like you said, even when you're reading, you're kind of trying to stoke those creative fires and get some inspiration.
Yeah, I think that's something I've been working on a lot in the last year or so, because like half of that record was written before I actually wrote the Grow Your Hair Long ... album.
Oh, okay.
So like a lot of the darker songs, like the first song, Everything's Been Going So Well. Essentially anything that's like really spooky and disassociated is from prior.
Yeah.
But in the last year, I've been sober now for like a year and 5 months, which is awesome. It's been really helpful.
Yeah,
and like,
congrats.
thank you. And doing like therapy, and that's been like one of the main points that I talk to my guy about. Is like, I need to be Kevin. I need to like step away from this, it's not that it's like a persona, because I feel like it's pretty much just me, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a mask that I like can wear that doesn't necessarily always like feed my self as a person. So I try to step away, and having a dog has actually helped a lot from letting go of the global marketplace, because it's like, I'm going to walk my dog and I'm going to feed him, I'm going to cuddle with him. And also just kind of letting go of, I don't know if this is with age or with all the other things I just described, but just kind of realizing that the internet or social media or Spotify playlists or whatever, like it's all just, it's not real. And the reason that I make music is because I just love to do it, and I really enjoy making it. And at times when I've been sort of jaded and like upset about what it is I have to do, and I hate that I even put it in those words, but it's felt like that before. And something about the last 6 months to a year, I've just realized that I'm just gonna make music. And I'm also extremely grateful that I get to make music for my career, and there's people out there that listen to it. And weirdly enough, even though that all seems to pertain to field medic, like remembering that helps me get more human, because it's like, this isn't about posting a cute pic or something. You know what I mean? Really, the heart of it is just my love of writing songs. And in trying to remember that, sometimes I just like, dude, you've already made a bunch of songs. You need to chill. So like it's okay to just watch, The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, the entire new season in like 3 days if you need to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do indeed try to force myself to slow down.
That's good. That's good. We were curious about this album's relation to your debut. That was Light Is Gone. This is Light Is Gone 2. Is this like a direct sequel? And if so, I mean, what fueled the inspiration for doing a follow-up to your debut album?
So when I made Light Is Gone 1, that was the first Field Medic album. I had made several EPs up until that point, but I finally felt like I had enough knowledge of my drum machines and my tape recorder to make a full record. And at the time, that was the first track, is called Light Is Gone. And then when I was making Light Is Gone 2, I was writing the lyrics for Empty Arms, where I just wound up using the phrase Light Is Gone. And I just realized that, like, the way I was just describing, really like having fun exploring sounds. I hadn't had that experience since I made the first record. So it's more like a producer sequel. Not that I would consider myself a producer, but I did make both of those records by myself.
Sure.
And it's less that it's like the same theme, and it's more the way that I felt when I made it, and just kind of pushing the boundaries of what I know how to do, and being willing to try stuff that's outside of my wheelhouse or outside of my comfort zone. So it's like a spiritual sequel. And I also, honestly, I just think like sequels are cool. Like I love how rappers have records that are just like, 1 through 5. I just think it's honestly like kind of cool and funny.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems to only be like a hip hop thing for some reason.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not a lot of other sequel albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to like when I first started Field Medic, I was releasing a lot of music constantly, and I think that Light Is Gone 2, as far as like the hip hop mentality of calling it a sequel, like I'm trying to get back to just dropping like hella tracks. Like I love rappers that drop like 3 tapes a year. Like I think that's so cool, and I'm trying to get back on that mindset.
So was there a conscious effort to kind of evolve past the country folk aesthetic that you're known for here with this record? Like, are you looking to maybe ditch the guitar altogether at some point and go straight electronic?
I think it was like almost subconscious. I think I felt that I was kind of at the end of my rope with, I didn't want to play guitar. I didn't want to like write the same song over and over again, which I do like doing and I will continue to do, just so we're clear. But at the time, I was like, I really want to make something more dynamic. I want to make something that's kind of surprising. Also, I want to take a risk and see what happens. Yeah. Because I think that there was the chance for this record to come out and everybody to be like, man, what the fuck is this? Which I'm sure somebody are thinking like in their head, but nobody has like come out saying like, they hate it or something, which was relieving to me, because I knew it was kind of off center. And it's like not so much conscious as it was just what I was in the mood to do, and that was kind of following my muse in that period. It was like the only way I was going to get it done was if I just kept exploring and making something that I wouldn't have predicted that I would make.
Gotcha. Yeah, it takes a lot of risks, and you're really vulnerable with your lyrics everywhere. Like it's super personal, super emotional. Is that ever taxing for you to kind of have to revisit that when you are performing and you're like, I don't really want to go there, but obviously I got to play these songs tonight for a crowd of people?
Yeah, sometimes. What's interesting is I did on the last tour, a bunch of people were asking me to play a song called The Bottle's My Lover, She's Just My Friend, which it wasn't like emotionally taxing for me to play, but what was interesting was I was like, dude, the person that wrote this, myself, like 4 or 5 years ago, was fucking like so depressed. And it's just, I feel sad for myself, but I'm like happy to go there. I think that interestingly, the songs that I don't like to revisit, which is also kind of related to what I just said, is like I have a song called OTL, One True Love, where I talk about like railing pills and like doing like naughty boy, like 22-year-old stuff. And it's weird because at the time that was just what I was doing.
Right.
And when I was young, it was like kind of like edgy and like it's almost funny, like depending on how you look at it. But for me, sometimes when I'm playing for these crowds, wherever I don't know when they came on the Field Medic ship or whatever, but some of them are younger and I'm like, I don't want them to think that like it's cool to like do that. I don't, I guess it's not my responsibility to like be a role model, but at the same time, as someone who's come out of like a lot of like bad vibes from like addiction, that I think at the time I was kind of just counterbalancing with humor and like ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the songs that I don't like to play. I don't really like to talk about railing pills in front of a bunch of like, college freshmen or something, just because I don't want them to be like, dude, that sounds like such a good idea. So that's, yeah. And also, I mean, getting super emo, but I feel like generally like dark stuff that's not about doing drugs or whatever, it's like I can tap back into those feelings. I think the most interesting thing is just having that perspective like I do with The Bottle's My Lover, and just being like, wow, that was like, I know who it was that wrote that, and I know that was me, but it's crazy that came out of my mouth, and maybe I'll feel that way about these other songs later on.
What is the Field Medic live experience? You said we earlier when we were talking about tour. Are you bringing other musicians with you, or is it just you performing a lot of the time, or how does that work?
So for the first several years, I just toured with a boombox. It was for like the simpler songs, so I would just bounce the drum machine parts to a cassette, and the boombox was like my drummer, and I love touring like that. It's really fun. And then when I made Grow Your Hair Long, because that record was sort of like a full band album, myself and my record label were like, we should like try to do a band tour. So now we tour for last year's tour, and the tour we just finished, it's me and a bassist and a drummer.
Okay. And
my drummer does some harmonies and plays some guitar. But I think next year I'm gonna try and do some more like solo boombox / solo style sets, because I do like to rock, but in my heart, my favorite thing to do is like sit, like, you're at a house show with like 20 people and you're just like sitting on the ground and someone's just playing a song and it's like very intimate. That is sort of that's where I came up. And that's what my old band, like part of my manifesto in Field Medic was like not rocking. Like I was like, I just want to play like finger-picked acoustic songs, hella quiet. And it was interesting, like getting to this point now, like where I'm just like rocking with a 3-piece again, which is great. And I love it, but I want to this year or next year, I want to focus on more like the intimate, like sitting down, thinking vibe.
Yeah. Cool.
Was that like a hard hurdle to get over, performing by yourself after being in a band when you were younger, or were you kind of used to it from playing shows and stuff before that?
So when I first started playing music, I played solo. Mm-hmm. And then with the band, we were a busking band. Like we played on the street like all the time.
Okay.
And then once I started doing Field Medic, I started busking by myself as well. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty used to being solo. And because I would try to consciously only get into scenarios where solo was chill, like Field Medic wasn't like playing clubs. Like I didn't want to do that. It was like only house shows or like on the street, or like if I was lucky enough to get an opening slot for somebody, it was like somebody else who was also like a singer-songwriter. So it was pretty easy for me. And I will admit that the boombox was a nice like crutch for me to have, because I felt like I didn't just want to be singer-songwriter guy. I wanted to have this like extra accessory. And so for a long time, I didn't realize this until recently, but I felt like I needed the boombox. Like it was like, this is like almost like this, like my shtick. And then I've done a couple shows, solo shows, like just fully solo. And I was like, oh, I don't even need the boombox. It was just, I feel like it was almost like this like safety blanket for me. But don't get me wrong, the boombox is hella cool. But but no, it was very natural for me, and I was stoked about it because I like quiet. I like quiet stuff.
Mhm.
Drums are so loud.
So you didn't have any like trepidation about being up there by yourself, as long as you had the boombox kind of security blanket with you.
Yeah, I think I have social anxiety, but I feel so at ease when I'm on a mic in
Mhm.
front of, however many people. Like I did a couple tours with this band, The Neighborhood, that are this huge like radio band, and I got to play for like 2,500 people, and I just
Wow.
felt for some reason like I have a hard time making small talk with like a cashier at the grocery store, but if I'm just on a mic in front of like a bunch of people I don't know, I'm like just I feel very at ease for some reason in that setup.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you've got like this history of self-releasing and producing your own music. Are you at
Mhm.
all nervous about the future of Bandcamp and having that direct line to your audience?
Yeah, I mean the things that have happened with Bandcamp are really unfortunate because that's where Field Medic started. Like I put out when it really started with Pegasus Thoughts, the EP, because that's when I first started making tapes. And I remember like I had a very, very small audience of like 7 people that
Mhm.
would always like order my tapes off Bandcamp, and they would all get like super long letters and like drawings and stuff because I was just mind blown by it. And yeah, I don't really know what to think though, because it's almost one of those things where I'm super bummed about it, but I also don't know if there's anything I can do to change it.
Mhm.
And it does suck really bad, but I'm trying to just focus on just keeping going and just seeing what happens, and maybe finding new ways to get music to. I'm sure I know that my friend Kevin Duquette, who is the owner of Top Shelf Records, he's building like this other Bandcamp alternative website that he's been working on for a long time. So hopefully something else pops up that kind of takes the place of that. But yeah, it's a weird time for music for sure.
Mhm. That was kind of our theory, is that there would be someone to step up. So yeah, I hope that happens.
Hmm.
We saw recently that you got a one of your songs featured in an art house horror movie. Are you a big horror guy?
Dude, I'm actually not. I scare really easily. But my friend Robbie, who plays in a band called Heavy Heavy Lolo, they're like a
Oh
legendary
yeah.
band from San Jose where I grew up. He just hit me up and he was like, dude, can I put you in my movie? And I was like, dude, hell yeah. And he traded me like a couple like logos for Paper Rose Haiku, my secret rap project. And that was that. I still haven't watched the movie, unfortunately. I want to hella bad, but I haven't gotten a chance. But I hear it's very moving and spooky.
Do you know the title of it, by the way? Sorry, I know I brought it up.
It's called Greed.
Okay, Priest. We also saw that you mentioned you might have something in the pipeline this December. Are you already planning on putting something new out again?
Dude, yeah, I actually just got the final mixes for this record that's going to come out on December 1st today.
Wow.
Wow.
So one of my old songs called Do a Little Dope was from a live show. And in the beginning of the song, I say this is from an album called Dope Girl Chronicles coming out in 2023,
Mhm.
which was just one of my bits. And at the time that was like 2015. So I was just picking any sort of weird, random, faraway date. And over the years, like I get messages all the time, like especially since this year started, like when is Dope Girl Chronicles coming out? And after I finished Light Is Gone 2, there was a moment where I was like, dude, like I can't make another album. But then I was like, fuck, I have to fulfill the prophecy. So I spent from June until September recording the whole thing. I literally gave my friend Derek a hard drive the night we left for tour to mix it. And then I came back and I went to his studio and we revised the mixes, and then I'm gonna hopefully send it off to get mastered tomorrow. I filmed myself recording the whole thing. So earlier today, I'm like editing this crazy like vlogumentary that's like hours of footage. So I thought that I was chilling, but I'm not. I'm already like, once this is done though, then I'm actually gonna chill. But yeah, there's a new album coming out in less than a month. That's also not finished yet.
Very exciting.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for Field Medic, but I'm also excited for Kevin to get some breathing space after this.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be able to chill soon. I mean, I'm already playing Resident Evil 4 remake, so I feel like I'm already on the road to relaxation. But I have to fulfill this prophecy, or something horrible will happen.
I think that's good. Yeah. Are you going to go through the remake 4 times?
Maybe. I mean, it's really hard. I don't know if either of you have played it, but it's way harder than the original. So, it's really fun. So you never know. I might have to play it 4 times in a row.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So you're not a big horror guy, but zombies seem like your lane between The Walking Dead and Resident Evil.
That's a great observation. I used to be super scared of zombies when I was a kid, and then I broke the seal, and now I'm just obsessed with zombies. Like, I've seen every single Resident Evil movie. Resident Evil is the only game I've ever played. I love Walking Dead. I love zombies. I don't know why. They still scare the shit out of me though.
Ryan, you played the Resident Evil games, right?
I haven't. No.
Oh, okay.
I played Resident Evil 2 for a little bit, and like the camera angle screwed me up, so I defaulted to Silent Hill. That was my PlayStation horror game.
I haven't played since I think it was the first Resident Evil on PlayStation, and I thought it was great. Like, I love I don't know how the camera angles were in the game you're talking about, but I love the fixed camera angles of that game. That was such a cool thing that they did.
You know, they're all great. Resident Evil 2, the remake is great. Resident Evil 3, the remake is great. I have played all the other ones too, except the first one. And like I've played 2, 3, 4 several times. Started to play 6, but I didn't like it. But I think I've determined I'm just gonna play every single Resident Evil game, and then I'm gonna figure out what to play after that.
Hell yeah.
Well, yeah, you mentioned in that shit is over now, being a fuck up at 7-Eleven. So if 7-Eleven had their own Spotify Wrapped, what would be like your highlights for the year, your most frequented items?
Oh my gosh. Back then, they would certainly be camel filters. It would be either the 25-ounce Bud Seltzer or the tall can White Claws. I'm not sure. I think those are like 16.5 ounces. And then, of course, the Pedialyte. They're the electrolyte drink they have at 7-Eleven. Sometimes I would prepare by getting all the White Claw or the seltzer and the Pedialyte at the same time. Yeah. So the next morning I could just drink it all. But I used to live really close to one, or close like a half a mile, and I would just like start off by getting like 3 cans of seltzer, and then I'm just like somehow like ambling back over there like at night and getting like 3 more. And then next thing you know, it's like 2 a.m, and I'm like, fuck, should I go back? But it was mainly just cigarettes and seltzer. Yeah. Because once I found out about seltzer, I was like, I think this is more healthy than beer, which it's like not, because there's just hella sugar in it. Yeah. So yeah, just hard seltzer and cigarettes. That's my 7-Eleven Spotify Wrapped.
Gotcha.
For not this year though. For this year would probably be bubbly water. And it used to be Zyn, but they don't sell flavored Zyn anymore in California. So now I have to order it online.
What is Zyn?
Oh, gotcha.
Zyn is like nicotine. It's snooze.
Gotcha. Yeah, one of my friends has that.
I'm like,
yeah.
This is my like last stand of nicotine. So I'm addicted to Zyn and only Zyn right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to stop, but I fuck with it. It's good. But to anyone out there, don't do it. It's bad.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. Good for you for trying to quit. I've been trying to get off cigarettes for a long time now, so I feel your struggle.
Dude, nicotine is like the hardest thing to quit of all time, especially because it doesn't fuck you up. So like you can still be like an upstanding citizen.
Yeah. Yeah. A day where I smoke 20 cigarettes is not terribly different for other people than the days where I didn't smoke 20 cigarettes. So yeah, that's a good point.
Try Zyn.
I'll give that a try.
It hits, bruh. Like the 6 milligram, it hits.
Okay,
hard.
Cool.
All right. Well, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. Everything you've given us as far as music the last couple of years has been great. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we get you out of here?
I appreciate you guys very much, and I'm really glad we got to do this. So thank you again for asking me on and listening and stuff. And to the people out there, Dope Girl Chronicles, the prophetic record, is coming December 1st. I hope you like it. It's a little bit, it's way more like normal. It's not super crazy like the last one. It's just like acoustic vibes. And shout out to my dog, John. Oh, and it's also me and my girlfriend's anniversary. So shout out to Catherine. If you're listening,
Nice.
this is on that day. I think that's it.
All right. Well,
Well,
thanks
yeah,
again.
congrats, man.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, this was awesome.
For more, visit internetkilledthevideostore.com.